Well, for more on the situation in France, let's bring in our very own Armin Georgian. Armin, first of all, just how bad is the situation in this country now?
Well, it's obviously got a lot better since the second lockdown was announced. If you look at the figures, there were about 50 or 60,000 positive cases every day at the end of October. By the last sort of main passage of the lockdown, there were something like 10,000 positive cases every day. The problem is that the positive cases, that the curve is not flattening really significantly beyond that. So we're not reaching this 5,000 a day target, which the government had set as a threshold to further easing restrictions on December the 15th. So this is concerning. We've obviously also heard various officials, including the education minister, who has said we've got to do everything to avoid a third wave. The fact that a third wave is even being mentioned is obviously pretty concerning. And note that the chief immunologist nominated by the government to lead the vaccination strategy, he has said that over the next 3 months, only an estimated 3 million people will have been vaccinated. And he says that doesn't have a significant impact on the spread of the virus. In other words, don't rely on a vaccination as a magic wand to prevent a third wave.
Armin Georgian, you said this December 15th is a real key date here. If these restrictions are not lifted, what kind of winter holiday period is France looking at?
Well, it really depends on two things. Firstly, is the lockdown going to be extended beyond the 15th of December? And secondly, for how long? So if you can just project, say, a week-long extension, which is, I think, what happened in Portugal, I believe, you're looking then at a lifting of the restrictions on how far you can travel on the 23rd of December. Why is that problematic? Well, because at the moment we have this restriction of 20 kilometers, right? So you can't go more than 20 kilometers beyond your home unless there's a very urgent or professional reason for doing so. If that were to be lifted on the 23rd of December, imagine the absolutely vast dash, the scale of traffic jams on the roads and all the rest of it. You remember those scenes when the second lockdown started, just before it happened, the massive traffic jams, people trying to get out of cities. That would be nothing compared to this. The mad scramble to try and reach family members just before Christmas, if the 20-kilometer limit is lifted at that point. And I suspect that a lot of people would just say, well, it's not worth it. It's not worth us getting stuck somewhere on a road or in a train or whatever, just on the eve of Christmas. So we just won't bother doing it. So even if on paper in France we're allowed to move around, who's actually going to do it? So we're looking at a very abnormal Christmas holiday period. And if the lockdown is not renewed, we're looking at a pretty stringent curfew. The talk had been of a curfew starting at 9 p.m. Until the early morning hours, but there's also been suggestions that the curfew could start earlier, like at 5 or 6 p.m. So whatever happens, Jeannie, we're looking at anything but a normal festive period.
Armin, thanks so much for that update. Armin Georgian there.